Welcome back to From Scratch. I am your host, Teresa Hodge, and we are talking about reentry success stories. I'm joined again with gentlemen you've already seen and you've met in previous episodes. And today we're just really going to talk about entrepreneurship. The three of us, we're entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And so just want to talk about our journey to entrepreneurship and kind of what are we thinking about it today. Saad, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
About you. I know you've talked about you went to prison, you came home, you worked. You were working way too hard.
Yeah.
And then one day you decided maybe there's another way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I came home and I had 3 jobs, 2 full-time jobs, 1 part-time job. I'm working about 140 hours a week, every week. And it didn't occur to me until I did my taxes at the end of that year that I would not have been able to survive but for the support that I had from my wife, right, at the time. And so I realized there's no way that I can sustain this. And so I decided I wanted to do something.
And that something was?
Landscaping. I was 32 years old, in the best shape of my life. No health problems, just really vibrant, energetic, ready to go. And I'd begun to notice in the neighborhood that guys my age in their 30s were kind of upstarting their career. They didn't want to be bothered.
They didn't want to cut their own grass.
They didn't want to cut their grass. They didn't want to shrub. They didn't want to edge. They didn't want to rake. And I was like, that's a fantastic opportunity for me. So I literally focused on a company that I knew how much I would have to invest in to have a fully operational company. A truck, a trailer, a zero-turn mower, a weed whacker, a blower, all of the different tools that would be one-time purchases. And then, of course, the maintenance. I've always been handy, so I can always fix something like minor things, little machinery. And I did that. And I started a landscaping company and very, very quickly took off.
All right, so we're going to stop there. We're going to come back. And I want to bring Josh in to talk a little bit about, when did you decide to start your business? And I'm not even sure if it's a business you're currently doing, because sometimes we start a business, we pivot.
That's right.
And we land where we are.
Well, yeah, the only company I've started was just about a year and a half ago or so. So roughly 12, years after incarceration.
So 12 years later, you started your business.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's funny because coming home, I kind of break down your plan for coming home in 3 segments. You have to survive, then you stabilize, and then you strategize. And at
I like that.
It's
survive,
stabilize,
strategize, and strategize. There we go.
And that is your initial strategy. So, you can think about like, well, how am I going to survive and stabilize? So survive is, I just need to get a job. I just need to get a house. I just need to get a car. And then you stabilize, it's okay, I need to do these things consistently. I have a consistent schedule. My life is plannable. It's not chaotic.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so after I found my first job, which was at a hardware store, where I'm selling weed eaters and leaf blowers, and I'm getting into the mechanic work and fixing these things.
Yeah.
I made the same connection. Hey, I can just go cut yards, do landscaping. I bought a truck. And I don't remember what happened, but I didn't go all the way to starting the landscaping company. And I think somebody had actually convinced me to go to school instead. And so my path kind of changed a little bit. And I would love to talk maybe a little bit later about, if you were to chart somebody's growth, like, hey, how high do you grow and how fast? What I learned is that there's certain aspects of education and the opportunities it creates helps you go from a linear path where you're just kind of going up steadily to an exponential one where you may start lower, but over more time, your high point is higher.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of where my path took and why I haven't started a company until just now.
Sounds like a long path for that.
Yes. Yeah.
So now we're expecting a lot of amazing things from you for the record, since,
Hey,
now you're smarter.
Yeah, exactly. It's more information. You have more access to different tools and strategies and revenue opportunities. Because, you ran landscaping.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can charge a customer per each house or yard or square foot or however you break it down. But if you get into selling technology, doing other kinds of sales to high net worth customers, or to selling to companies instead of residential homeowners and things like that, your profit profile changes and you can capture more growth.
Well, you do sound smart, for the record. Very impressive. But anyway, you didn't tell us what's the business. Because you started off with, I'm going to do landscaping.
Correct.
Went to college, became very smart.
That
Or
was the-
so you think.
That was the change agent right there. Yeah.
And now, what is the business?
So running a talent acquisition company for other companies seeking talent, and specifically with those who are formerly incarcerated or have records. And why? Well, you heard Saad, you heard me. We come home, we're hungry. Saad was willing to put in work where other men his age were not. And so if you can capture that in your own workforce and hire somebody like Saad or hire somebody like Josh, and as an employer, you get the ROI, the return on investment on that talent, multiple times over versus the average person who, again, is like, well, maybe this is just a job. I just want a paycheck. I find something better, I'm going to leave. For those of us with records, that's not our mentality. And often we don't have the opportunity to leave because nobody else is trying to give us a chance. So.
Absolutely. So I like this because, Saad, what you're saying is that a year after you were home, about a year, you started.
Literal year, yeah.
After your tax season.
After my tax season.
One tax season later,
One tax
Saad
season
decided
later.
this is not sustainable. And he started his business.
Yeah.
And for you, it was about 12 years later.
Correct.
You had the thought of it, took a detour, and I won't call it a detour, but, it kind of was, that you decided, I'm going to go over here. But the desire of that was still there. And in one sense, what you added to college was the development. You had a thought. You had the theory, you had all of the information, so that allowed the development of what you were talking about to evolve.
Yeah.
And then it evolved away from, one thing to technology once you started looking at the return on investment and maybe just even, sometimes we do what we know.
Yeah.
We do what's accessible. And, at that point, then as you learned and got smarter, you went in a different direction. I will say that for me, I went to prison as an entrepreneur. And I knew I wanted to come back and be an entrepreneur. As a matter of fact, while I was waiting, from my case was just so drawn out.
Sure.
But from the time I was convicted to the time I went to prison was like 4 months. I wrote a business plan. The business that I was going to be doing.
Nice, yeah.
And while I was in prison, I probably wrote 3 or 4. And a lot of what we're doing today, it's the business, development, which is part of just, thinking. Like, it's one thing to have a thought about doing a business,
Oh, gosh.
but you really have to have lots of thought, research, to understand, am I the right person for this? There's ways that we can even take tests to, understand,
personality.
am I the right person?
Am I an idea generator?
Yeah.
Am I an operations person?
Yeah.
Do I just get things done no
Yeah.
matter what they are,
Yeah.
or am
Yeah.
I more strategy?
Yeah.
Am I a
And you-
dreamer? Am I a doer?
Yeah.
Right?
And how do I
you
build
have
a
to-
team that
and
complements?
if you find, and this is where it's so critical to know yourself, because your business becomes an extension of you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, like, if you know,
It's a part of
that
your
you're-
ego.
It's a part of your ego. It's a part of your function. It's a part of your abilities. So, if I know I'm a dreamer and that I can come up with these amazing ideas, I need to pair myself with a doer,
Absolutely.
such that the logistics can get handled because someone has to do that.
Yeah, the doer got to have their feet on the ground. So while you're up in La La Land, they're like,
Yeah, this is how it's going to happen.
bring the dream down.
That's right.
Bring it back.
This is what it distills to.
Yeah.
Or stop dreaming for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that we can execute
Yeah.
on what we dreamed before.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Before you're off to the next thing.
Yeah.
So, one, this is really good.
Yeah.
And God knows we can go in a bunch of different directions right here.
Yeah.
As a dreamer, I'm bringing myself back into this moment, So I just want to give, so I started my business about 3 years after I was home, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And because probation and parole told me I could not.
Yeah. It's
That
interesting.
restriction.
Yeah, it was
That part.
it was a restriction of no, you can't start a business.
Yeah.
And then I had a probation officer who said, "Well, give me your business plan." And in my mind, I'm thinking,
Which one?
and since when did you become a specialist? Do you have an MBA?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to review my model to determine if I can do it? And in that moment, I thought, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
And I just,
Yeah.
stayed in research mode a little bit more and so forth. So I didn't do it. So we have someone who started a year.
Yeah.
Afterwards, 3 years and 12 years. And I think what this speaks to is, reentry is a journey,
It is.
right? And so sometimes we have a thought, but it's also about when is the right time
Yeah.
for you to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you started your business in the right moment, the right timing of that opportunity?
I'm thankful that I did. And I'm also thankful that it happened the way it did, because for me, it happened very quickly in rapid form. I started a business within 90 days, quite literally, within 90 days, I had $280,000 worth of accounts.
Nice.
Okay.
It was.
I think the answer is yes. You could have gave a short answer.
Hey, and by the way, though, I do want to. That is not normal.
That is not normal. That is absolutely not normal.
Yeah.
It's atypical.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're not.
It's not going to happen
But
like that.
but
for most
is
people.
not kind of normal, right? In a good way.
In a good way. Certainly not normal. But I married myself to this business, and I began to discover this process of my assets. I had never understood that I had so many transferable skills.
Yeah.
At one point in my life, I was an unregulated street pharmaceuticals distributor.
Sales.
Sales.
Okay.
And I understood supply chain, I understood wholesale, retail, upselling, sales. I understood motivation, but I never knew that.
All very good skills.
Very good skills, but I never
Yeah.
knew that because I've always been.
You didn't have the theory.
I didn't have the theory. I didn't have the education behind
Right.
it. So when I started landscaping, I would speak to a homeowner, and the homeowner we would have conversations, and I would build relationships. And what I realized was that relationship fueled my commerce.
Exactly.
I discovered that
Key.
within a month, and began recognizing that I had the ability to sell, to market, to develop. And while I was owner operator doing the work myself, I was upselling my customers with what they told me they wanted. And so
So that speaks to the fact that you're a good listener.
a good listener and attentive and hungry. Like, let's be honest, I wanted to make as much money. There's no real personal gratification for me making your yard beautiful. I just didn't care. It was about money.
Okay.
It was a whole-on money play, and it worked. And I would upsell hardscape. Before long, I was doing patios.
You found a
grills.
good way to legitimize, some
My
of your
hustle.
regular, your skills and turn it into money.
Can I want to add to that.
Yeah.
Because I've sat on panels where I've discussed the talent opportunity of people with records. Many of us, similar background in sales, we come into the world and companies want, there was this term they used to, I don't know if they still use it that much, called entrepreneurs, where they wanted somebody inside the company who
Yeah.
had an entrepreneurial mindset. And I would advocate, hey, you got a bunch of people who understand supply and demand, supply chain, pricing, marketing, sales, all these procurement, negotiation. And so anyways, the point I wanted to make, though, was a lot of people who don't come from these backgrounds, who went the straight and narrow their whole life, get into companies, maybe try to start a company, but don't understand sales, don't understand the relationships. And you can build an incredible product or service, but if nobody's buying it, you fail.
Yeah.
So
very real. Very, very real.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So I want to ask a couple of more questions here. So, I want to come over to you. Do you believe that you started your business at the right time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Timing was a big part of it. There are two opposite sayings that are true, which is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. And then the other one is it's never a good time to pursue your dreams. Because maybe the market, the economy, there's challenges, and so there's a lot of people who will naysay, say, this isn't a good time to do it. So what I say is one, just do it. And then second, because of what I work in specifically in the United States, there is a labor shortage that everybody is aware of. You have companies and economic growth, which is continuing. You have labor participation rates, which are declining. You have less people for the amount of jobs because birth rates in the past declined. And so there are literally, people have had less kids over time, and millennials are having less kids, and that trend is continuing. And so you're going to have this labor shortage. But guess what? You've got, roughly 20 million people in the United States who have felony convictions, who are left out of the labor pool, 80 million or so who are, the total population with records currently. And so society is also opening up to,
Absolutely.
hey, maybe, these scary people aren't actually that bad, and some of them should have, a fair chance at employment. And so those were the kind of planets I saw aligning. And so I said, yes, those realities plus my own professional development experience, knowledge, and capability all matched up. And so, I thought it was a perfect time to.
It sounds like it was a perfect time, and you're right. Today, when you said 80 million people, those are 80 million people with an arrest or a conviction record. And what we know is just having an arrest record is enough
It can show
to
up.
keep you from getting a job.
Absolutely.
And so entrepreneurship, I think Saad talked about this on a previous episode. For a lot of people, we turn to entrepreneurship out of necessity. Not because that was our first choice. It's our only choice. And if I don't clean enough houses, I can't take care of myself. And entrepreneurship does not have to be tech. It doesn't have to be landscaping. And yes, it can be landscaping and it can be tech.
Building tables.
Right? Because,
whatever.
20 million people, 80 million people, we're not the same.
Absolutely.
So tell me, I'm going to do 2 rapid fire questions, and then we're going to wrap up here. And,
Sure.
We're going to come back and have a bigger conversation because, one, I like this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
This drives me.
Yeah.
You got 3
selfishly.
business owners here. I mean, we could talk about this for days.
We haven't even gotten started.
Yeah.
And I know for so many people who are sitting in prison, the reality is we're dreaming our best dream.
Yeah.
Right? We're dreaming of our best self. And for many of us, entrepreneurship is our best self. It's some
absolutely.
expression. But talk to me just for real quick, what you hate about entrepreneurship. Because, I don't want to paint just such a, we're having fun, $280,000.
No, it's so fantastic. It is so fantastic to paint the picture of success. But what I hate about it is that I'm never unplugged. I'm my own boss, so I never clock out. Work is constant. And if it's not working, I literally have to shut my brain off, if I'm even successful, after deliberately saying, Saad, stop thinking about this. It just continually brews, and it becomes a second personality that's attached to me. There's no, and sure, woe is me. When I was serving my 15-year sentence, I would have prayed that this would be my reality. Like struggling, not able to get $20 a month in to throw on commissary. Love this reality that I'm in. But the fact of the matter is that you never unplug. You never take a break. There's never a time off. You're always grinding.
Amen to
When
that.
something goes wrong, it's your job to fix it. You can't call your boss and say, hey, this isn't working. What do I do?
Exactly.
You're a problem solver in every aspect, and that is difficult.
And if it's not working, it's partly not working because of you.
Exactly.
Even if it's someone else.
And it wears on every other aspect of your life, your relationships, your social connections.
Everything's connected.
Everything's connected to it.
We get it. It's time consuming.
Yeah, it's time consuming. It's energy. It's stress. You learn to manage the up and down, the roller coaster over time, but there's still this level and degree of pressure that you just have to live with. As a matter of fact, my daughter and I one day were sitting down, and she was like, "Daddy, tell me all your jobs." And
you were like, "No, please."
And I sat down, and she said, "You have 10 jobs." She mapped it. She wrote it. Like, she's a writer. She likes to have an agenda and follow a schedule, even when it's a day off. So she would say,
Is she looking for a job?
right? Is she looking? I'll pay you. And she said, "Daddy, you have 10 jobs." And she literally had categorized work in categories.
Yeah.
And she came up with 10 categories of my work. My responsibility load covered that spectrum.
Wow.
And so it was eye-opening for me, and that I began to
Probably was
understand.
embarrassing.
Embarrassing for sure. But yeah,
No.
it's a burden, but it's a burden that comes with
Benefits.
benefits.
How about you?
I'll simplify it in that I heard another business leader say that when you are the executive or the CEO or whatever, you are a filter, a funnel for all of the worst problems. Because if a problem makes it to you, it's because nobody else could solve it and do it for you. So
It's true.
people think that entrepreneurship, I'll get to work on things I like and my dream and things. It's like, no, you're actually going to be dealing with
You're an artist.
the hardest. Yeah, you're going to deal with the hardest issues that nobody else can face. And then the best metaphor I've seen, which is very real, I saw this video of a guy barefoot on a treadmill with weights. And he's walking, and somebody else is increasing the speed on the treadmill and then dumping Legos on it that he has to step on. and they were like, this is on, and this was on LinkedIn.
That's doable.
Yeah, and so many other business owners and entrepreneurs were just like, I identify with this so much,
Yeah.
and I saw that and was like, this is really what it feels
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
It's not glorious.
No.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So again, quick, guys. Question: what advice would you give to someone who's watching this on their bunk on a prison tablet, thinking of, hey, at some point when I come home, I want to be an entrepreneur?
I would say, recognize that you are going to add a ton of stress into your life by doing that. Some of the people I respect the most recognize, I don't want to do entrepreneurship. I would rather get paid to work for somebody else and have them deal with all the problems. And I just come in, I do my job, and I leave. It's a far less stressful experience, and you still get the paycheck.
Yeah.
So just consider that as an option. And you mentioned like ego. Don't let ego drive your decision. Sometimes, just play the part you have to play for right now, and then plan and strategize, and then come stronger later.
Like that.
Master your craft. Understand what you're capable of doing. Understand what you bring to the table, and understand the value of it. That's one. Accounting. Understand.
Hire an accountant.
Hire an accountant. Understand QuickBooks. Understand Intuit. Understand how to account for your business income such that you can track your money and know if you're making money. Too often I see craftsmen that have skill, that have talent, but they don't understand money. Begin to understand the accounting of a business such that you now know if you're actually making money.
Yeah.
It seems like a no-brainer, but when you have time to understand it, learn what a profit and loss statement is, learn what your annual reports are, your monthly recurring revenue, your annual recurring revenue, all of these line items that are part and parcel to your ability to grow. Accounting and master your craft. Know what you bring to the table.
Taxes.
So I appreciate that, because one thing that's really important is that we don't over romanticize, entrepreneurship, because it's challenging. And what you see here is that you can do it 1 year after coming home. You could do it 3 years after coming home. You could do it 12 years after coming home. The thing is, just do it when it's right for you.
Yeah.
I like what you said, which was survive, stabilize, and strategize. So while you're dreaming today, add those 3 steps in, because they're important as we move forward. We thank you for joining us today on From Scratch, and we're really grateful to you guys, because you truly are a reentry success story, and we're going to hope to create some more.